All right, welcome to lab number 13 of the AZ-204 course. This is an optional lab, and it's called Create and Configure an Azure Web App. But in reality, what we're really learning here is how to use a CI/CD pipeline with app services, basically. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're first going to go over to GitHub. And this lab requires you to have a GitHub account. So if you don't have one, then you can just create one. Otherwise, sign in. All right, so I'm going to do the GitHub stuff on my own machine because I have, I'm already logged in here. So it's just a lot easier for me. So I'm going to create a new repository here. My AZ-204 repo, maybe. I don't need a description. We can keep it public. Why not? Let's just create it. And then we want to add a file. Here, create a new file. I'm going to create it. You can also upload it. It's going to be a README file. Blah, right? That's there. All right, so then we're going to upload files from the repo under Lab13. There's supposed to be a directory called web app SAM. So we want to upload all of those. Okay, they're uploaded. Let's call this commit initial import and commit the changes. And now they're there. Great. So going back to our Azure environment, let's create a web app. Again, we're going to use a resource group here. For me, it's already existing. You might want to create your own. We're going to call the web app -sam with some randomness added. We want to publish code. It's going to be a .NET 8 environment. We're happy with running it on Windows, and we want to run it in East US 2. Again, we don't have a plan here, so let's create a new one. Let's call it the managed plan. And we're happy with just the standard S1 option. If we go onwards to monitoring, and note that we're going to use application insights here. All right, that's good. Let's review and create. All right, so that's complete. Let's go to the app. And then we have settings here and configuration. A couple of things that we want to take a look at here is we want to set on for basic auth publishing credentials. And then save. Great. Then under deployment, I go to deployment center. And this is where we can set up where the code is supposed to come from. So let's go to GitHub. There we go. So now I can select our organization, which is going to be my personal one. Then it's going to get a list of repositories, and we're going to use the one we just created, my AZ-204 repo. And then we want to use the main branch. Okay. That should work. Everything else be okay. Let's save this. Okay, so now if you go back to GitHub, we look at our repo, and we look at the actions, and we can see that there is this flow and it's currently actually running. If we click on it, then we can see that it's actually currently building our application. And then next it's going to deploy. And this is what is happening within the build phase. Okay, so in this option, we're running the CI/CD pipeline, the whole build pipeline on GitHub using GitHub Actions. And then it will deploy the application into our web app automatically. So let's wait for that deployment to happen. And then we'll be happy to visit our application. Okay, now it seems to be deployed. Let's go and take a look. Yay, we have our gallery in here. Okay, perfect. So let's now go back to GitHub. Go to the code tab, and let's just kind of emulate that we're making some changes into the application. So let's just change the index file. Now we're going to click on the edit button here. In reality, of course, we would be running, this in our IDE or whatever. Let's just change the main heading to be portfolio gallery, and then maybe add like a paragraph here up. This is a simple .NET web project. And then close that P as well. There we go. So let's commit this change. Better tile, right? And now we've committed it, right? So now the new version includes our changes. So now if we go back to actions, we can see that that has actually kicked off another workflow, right? So now it's building and deploying our application again, taking into account the changes. So let's just wait for a minute here. All right, so now that's supposed to be deployed. Let's go and take a look. And indeed, now it says portfolio gallery, and this is a simple .NET web project instead. All right, so this is just kind of one way how to integrate the CI/CD or how to deploy automatically into web apps. This time we're using GitHub Actions. But as you saw, there were many other options available as well. So you can use Azure DevOps for this, or other services. So next up, let's enable some auto scaling. So back with our application over here. So what we can do is go down here under settings to scale out. There we go. This is our current plan. Now, let's add some rules-based scaling. Let's go with custom auto scale. We're going to be scaling based on a metric. And then we're going to have between 1 and 4 instances with a default of 2. So when we add a rule, let's use CPU percentage as the metric. And we want to have greater than, let's say, 60% for 5 minutes. And then we want to increase the count by 1, and we have a cooldown of 5 minutes. All right. So let's save this. So now, because our all-scale setting wanted a default of 2 instances, we should be able to see that immediately. Current instance count is 1, but I think there's a second one being created. And we can, of course, hurry that up a little bit by refreshing our web page a lot. Okay. So another thing that we should be doing here is also create a scale in rule, not only a scale out, so that if there is smaller than expected usage, then we would remove instances. There we go. Configure custom auto scale, and we're going to add a rule. So if the CPU percentage is for some reason less than, let's say 40%, for 5 minutes again, then decrease the count by 1. And here we have maybe a smaller cooldown, 3 minutes. All right. So in your environment, you might want to create that traffic. You can also create a test plan to create that traffic. Over here, we don't really have time to look at that working. So I'm just going to show you how to do the load test, and then fast forward through that. All right, so let's create an instance here. going to call it load test for Sam. And we were in East US 2. Everything else should be okay. All right, that has been created. So let's create a test. So we want to run it, yes. Let's add a request to the URL, which was this one. All right. Anything else we need to set up? Maybe a number of loads. So kind of duration of the test we want to have is like 3 minutes, no ramp up time, and we want to have like 100 current users running. So let's create this, and then it is going to run. All right, now the test run is done. So we can see that stuff happened. You might want to do a longer test run and then take a look at the app service that is actually reacting to the additional, amount of queries, and then it's going to scale accordingly. Okay, so next up, let's configure authentication. So I'm going to go back to our application. And then under settings, we have authentication. And currently there are no identity providers. So let's add one. And we're just going to use the Microsoft basic stuff in here. So just the current workforce, the current tenant. And then we're going to register our app. This is our app right over here. And the account types are just the ones that we have over here, right? So we're not going to do anything more complicated here, but the same process will work for you as well. Client secret, let's just use the recommended option. Everything else seems to be okay here. So we require authentication. We don't allow unauthenticated access. And then we do a 302 in case somebody tries to access us without authentication. So let's add that. So let's go over to Entra ID. Under Manage, let's go to Enterprise Applications. And here is our application as well somewhere. We just do it based on created on. This is the latest one, so that's the one that we have. And over here under activity, we can take a look at the sign in log. So now if we go back to our web app and we refresh this, it's going to ask us to sign in. And we can do that using our current identity. And now we get access to our app. And then this will show up as a sign in log over here fairly quickly. All right, now we can see the login in the logs. It takes about 5 minutes until they actually show up. So finally, let's take a look at the application insights for our app. Going back to the app itself. So here is our web app, and we can find the application insights here. So let's go and take a look. So here we can see some data for our app, and kind of note that one of the ways to figure out what is going on in your environment is the investigate tab here. That gives you kind of real-time environment information. Under monitoring, we can also take a look at logs. So this goes back to log analytics, and we can use a query here that's given to us in the lab instructions, where we want to get, how many requests did we get during the past 24 hours per result code. And it seems that none of the logs have been applied. It's okay, but this is how it will work. In addition to that, under the investigate tab, we have this application map functionality. And also this has not yet collected any data for us. But here you would see how your application is actually running. All right. So one additional thing that we can take a look at here is availability. So still our application hasn't been running for long enough yet. But what we could add here is a standard test to ensure that our application is running, right? So let's use the URL over here. Let's run the test every 5 minutes, and we can select where the test is going to be running from. Could be this, and then just create it. So this will try to connect to our application from those different locations around the world. And then we will get back a result with regards to our availability from those different places based on these tests running every 5 minutes. Again, we're not going to wait to get those results here. The last thing that we want to do is add a CDN for our application. So we're going to create a profile, and we're just going to use CDN standard over here. I'm going to put stuff into our resource group. We're going to call it the content delivery network, like in the last one. Global and classic is okay. So let's just create this. All right, that's created. So now we can add the endpoint. Let's call it CDN SAM. Something random. The type is web app, and we know it's this one. And everything else can be as default. Okay, that endpoint has been created. So now what we can do is under settings, we can create some caching rules. And the other things that we could do is, for example, cache every unique URL, because we don't have any user-specific URLs here. Right, so that's what we have done here. Fairly long lab, a lot of stuff. I hope you enjoyed it. And please come back for the next one. Till then, bye.